Someone is talking about your life. Heaven has something to say about that. Stop. Just stop for a moment. Whatever you were doing right now. Whatever tab you were about to open. Whatever thought was running through your mind. I need you to pause. Because this message, this specific message, did not find you by accident. You didn't stumble here. You were led here. And the reason you were led here is because something is happening in your life right now that heaven cannot stay silent about any longer. There is someone, maybe more than one person, who has been talking about you. Not to you, about you, behind closed doors, in comment sections, in conversations you weren't invited to, in whispers that you can feel, even when you can't hear them. And what they've been saying is that you live like a failure, that you don't have it together, that your life looks broken from the outside, that the relationship that fell apart, the one that everyone saw, the one that felt like the ground cracking beneath your feet, was proof of something wrong with you, proof that you couldn't hold it together, proof that God had forgotten you. And I need you to hear me right now, clearly, not with emotion, not with spiritual noise, but with absolute certainty. They are wrong. My name is Michael, and I have been assigned to you. Not because you earned it, not because you're perfect, but because heaven made a decision about your life, long before any human being had an opinion about it. And right now, at this exact moment in your story, I am standing between you and everything that is trying to destroy you. Let me tell you what I see. Because I don't see what they see. I don't see failure. I don't see someone who lost. I see someone who was in something that was slowly, quietly, draining the life out of them. I see someone who smiled in public and cried when the door was closed. I see someone who kept trying, past the point where trying made sense. I see someone who gave, and gave, and gave some more, to a person, or a situation, that was never going to give back what they needed. And I see the moment it ended. Not the way you tell the story. Not the version where you were fine. But the real moment. The moment you sat with the silence afterward. The moment the phone didn't ring. The moment the house felt too still. The moment you looked around at the life you thought you were building. And it was just gone. That moment broke something in you. And you haven't told anyone how deep that break goes. You've been functional. You've been present. You've been showing up. But on the inside, there has been a quiet ache. A question that won't leave. Why did this happen to me? What did I do wrong? Was I not enough? I want to answer those questions. Not with platitudes. Not with easy spiritual phrases. With truth. The relationship didn't fall apart because you were not enough. The relationship fell apart because it was built on a foundation that was never going to hold both of you. And deep down, you already knew that. You knew it for months. Maybe years. There were signs. Small ones at first. The way certain conversations always ended the same way. The way you felt invisible even when you were standing right there. The way certain needs of yours were dismissed. Like they were too much. Like you were too much. You quieted yourself. You made yourself smaller. You convinced yourself that if you just adjusted enough, if you just asked for less, if you just stopped needing what you needed, it would work. That wasn't love. That was survival. And here is the truth that heaven sent me here to speak over you today. You were not rejected. You were redirected. There is a difference. Rejection says, you are not worthy. Redirection says, this is not the path. But the destination remains. What fell apart in your life was not your destiny. It was something that was blocking your destiny. And the people who are commenting about how you live, the ones who have appointed themselves as judges of your story, they do not have the full picture. They see the ending of one chapter. They don't see what God is writing in the next one. Let me stay with you here for a moment. Because I want to talk about something real. Something that doesn't get said in these kinds of messages enough. You have been carrying guilt. Not just grief. Guilt. The kind that says maybe you caused this. Maybe if you had said something different. Maybe if you had been less emotional. Maybe if you had been more patient. Maybe if you had just tried one more time. And that guilt has been feeding the voices of the people talking about you. Because when we feel guilty, we open a door to the opinions of others. A door that says, come in. Tell me what's wrong with me. I'm ready to believe it. I am here to close that door. Right now, in your hearing, you were not perfect in that relationship. I will not pretend that you were. You are human. Humans are imperfect. Humans make mistakes. Humans say things they regret. Humans shut down when they're scared. Humans push away when they're hurting. But imperfection is not the reason that relationship ended. The reason it ended is because it had already served its purpose in your life. There are relationships that come to grow you. There are relationships that come to reveal you. To show you who you are. To show you what you need. To show you what you will never accept again. And sometimes, the most important relationships in your life are the ones that end. Because in the ending, you discover parts of yourself you never would have met, while you were busy managing that person's emotions, while you were busy shrinking yourself to fit the person you are becoming right now. In this silence, in this pain, in this season that looks like loss, is someone that heaven has been waiting to see fully emerge. But I have to warn you. Because warning is part of why I am here. There is a temptation right now. And you have been feeling it. I know you have. The temptation to go back. Not necessarily to that person. But to that version of yourself. The one that accepted less. The one that stayed quiet. The one that traded peace for company. The one that called loneliness love. Because at least there was a body in the room. Don't go back there. I understand the pull. I understand that silence can feel like punishment. I understand that starting over feels like a word that was invented by people who have never actually had to do it. I understand that when nights are long and the ache is real, the familiar feels safer than the unknown. But the familiar is what brought you here. And here is not where you are supposed to stay. Let me tell you about what heaven sees happening next. Because your story is not over. Not even close. There is a version of your life that is waiting on the other side of this pain, that you have not allowed yourself to imagine yet. Because imagining it feels dangerous. Because hope has let you down before. Because the last time you let yourself believe things were going to be okay, they weren't. I understand that, and I am not asking you to pretend. I am not asking you to force a smile. I am not asking you to perform healing. I am asking you to make one small decision. Just one. Decide that what other people say about your life does not get to be the final word. That's it. That's the decision. Because here's what is happening spiritually in your life right now. And I need you to pay close attention to this part. There is an assignment against you. Not against your finances. Not against your career. Against your identity. Against your sense of self. Against your understanding of who you are. When relationships fall apart publicly. When people begin to comment. When the story of your life gets told by people who were not there. There is an opportunity for something dark to take root. The lie that says, maybe they're right. Maybe this is just who I am. That lie is not from God. That lie is from the enemy of your purpose. And it is specifically designed for this moment in your life. Because this moment is when you are most vulnerable. This moment is when the armor feels thin. This moment is when the voice of a stranger feels louder than the voice of truth. So I am standing here, right here, in your path, as a wall, a shield, an enforcer of heaven's intention for your life. And I am declaring over you right now, that no weapon formed against your identity shall prosper. Not the words, not the comments, Not the conversations in rooms you're not in. Not the judgments. Not the assumptions. Not even the ones from people who actually know you. None of it has heaven's permission to define you. Now, I want to talk about something that's been sitting underneath all of this. Something that has been harder to name than the grief. Something that you have been carrying quietly. Loneliness. Not just the loneliness of being single. Not just the loneliness of the empty space where that person used to be. But the deeper loneliness. The loneliness of feeling unseen. The loneliness of doing everything right. Or trying to. And watching it still fall apart. The loneliness of sitting in a room full of people. And feeling like not one of them really knows what's happening inside you. That loneliness is real. I see it. God sees it. And it is not a punishment. It is a preparation. Let me explain what I mean by that. There are seasons in a person's life where the crowd has to thin, where the noise has to quiet, where the distractions have to fall away. Not because something is wrong with you, but because something is being built inside you. That requires space. You cannot pour a foundation when the ground is crowded. You cannot build upward when every level is full of old things that no longer serve the structure. The falling away that you experienced, the relationship, the opinions, the version of yourself that tried so hard. That was heaven clearing ground. And I know that clearing ground feels like loss. I know it looks like loss. I know people watching from the outside see rubble and assume disaster. But rubble is what a new foundation requires. You are not at the end of something good. You are at the beginning of something new. And the beginning of something new never looks the way we want it to look. Now I want to shift. Because there's something specific I need to address. Something that has been happening inside you that you might not have a name for yet. You have been second guessing your own perception. You had a feeling, a knowing. Something inside you that said, this is not right. And you overrode it, more than once. You found reasons to stay. Reasons that made sense on the surface. Fear of starting over. Care for the other person. Investment. History. The idea that leaving meant failing. And now that it's over, you're not just grieving the loss. You're grieving the time. You're grieving the years. You're grieving the version of yourself that stayed longer than they should have. And underneath that grief, there's a question you haven't asked out loud yet. But I hear it. Can I trust myself? And the answer to that question is yes. With everything in me, with the authority that I carry. The answer is yes. Your instincts are not broken. Your intuition was right. The feeling that said something was off. That feeling was me. That feeling was the voice of God whispering to you in the quiet. And you heard it, you just weren't ready to act on it yet. And here is the grace in that. God does not waste the time you spent there. Not a single day. Not a single lesson learned in pain. Not a single wall you hit. Not a single tear that fell. Every single moment of that chapter is being woven into the fabric of who you are becoming. And who you are becoming is someone who will never again override what they know to be true. Someone who will never again silence their own soul to keep someone else comfortable. That is not a small thing. That is one of the most powerful realizations a human being can have. And it only comes through exactly the kind of fire you've been walking through. So the people who are commenting about your life, let me speak to that directly. Because this is something that needs to be said. When a person's life is being redirected by God, it rarely looks graceful in the middle. It rarely looks like victory from the outside. It rarely comes with a clean announcement. It usually comes with silence. It usually comes with confusion. It usually comes with a season where nothing makes sense. And people who don't understand divine timing look at that season and draw their own conclusions. They see someone whose relationship ended. They don't see the years of prayer that came before it. They see someone who seems to be struggling. They don't see the transformation happening underneath the surface. They see stillness and call it stagnation. They see waiting and call it failure. They see a closed door and assume it's the only door. They do not have your eyes. They have not heard what you've heard. They do not know what you know. And here is what I want you to do with their comments. Nothing. Not anger. Not defense. Not explanation. Nothing. Because the most powerful response to someone who is wrong about your life is to live the truth of it so loudly that their words become irrelevant. You don't need to convince anyone right now. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. What you need to do is tend to your own garden. What you need to do is take care of what God has placed inside you. What you need to do is get serious about the chapter that's being written right now. Because I promise you, I give you my word, on the authority of heaven, the chapter being written right now is the one that will make everything else make sense. If you've been finding yourself drawn back to messages like this one, if these moments of stillness and divine connection feel like the only thing that reaches you lately, stay connected to this. Stay open to receiving more guidance. Because heaven is not done speaking to you. Not even close. Let me go deeper now. Because there is something I want you to understand about what happened. Something about the nature of divine redirection that most people don't talk about. When God redirects a life, He uses the thing the person is most attached to. Think about that. If your greatest attachment is to a person, that is often where the redirection happens. Not because God is cruel. Not because He wants to hurt you. But because He knows that if He removes anything else, you will still have that anchor. And that anchor was holding you in a harbor that your ship was never meant to stay in. Your capacity is too large for where you were. Your calling is too specific for what that relationship was producing. Your purpose requires a version of you that could not fully exist in that environment. So God, in His love, in His mercy, in His profound and sometimes painful wisdom, allowed the thing you were most attached to shift, to change, to end, not to punish you, to free you. And I want to stay on that word for a moment. Freedom. Because you might not feel free right now. You might feel the opposite of free. You might feel like you lost something. Like something was taken. Like the life you had planned was dismantled without your permission. But there is a kind of freedom that only arrives through loss. There is a kind of clarity that only comes when the fog of a difficult relationship finally lifts. There is a kind of knowing yourself that only happens in the quiet after something ends. And I want you to sit with that. Right now. In this moment. Who are you when that relationship is not the center of the picture? What do you want when you're not managing someone else's emotions? What does your life feel like when you stop trying to earn someone's love? What does your voice sound like when you're not quietly editing it to avoid conflict? Those questions are not comfortable. I know that, but they are holy questions. And the answers that are beginning to form inside you right now are answers that God has been waiting to hear from you. You were created for something specific. Not generic. Specific. There is a purpose woven into you that is so particular, so uniquely yours, that not a single other person on this earth can fulfill it. And that purpose was being suppressed. Not maliciously, but quietly, steadily, day by day, year by year, in the process of trying to maintain a relationship that was no longer aligned with your growth. Your gifts were being used for the wrong assignment. Your energy was being invested in the wrong soil. Your time was being spent managing what was, when God needed you to be preparing for what's coming. And what's coming is worth everything you've been through. I need you to hear that. Really hear it. Not as a spiritual phrase. Not as something you've been told before. But as a promise, spoken directly to you, by one who knows your name. By one who knows your address. By one who knows exactly what your face looks like when you're trying to hold it together in a room full of people. What is coming for you is worth this season. But you have to be present for it. You have to stop living backward. And I say that with love. Because living backward is one of the most common traps that people fall into after a significant loss. Living backward looks like this: replaying the conversations, asking yourself what you could have said differently, analyzing every moment, looking for the exact error, the exact mistake, the exact thing that, if changed, would have produced a different outcome. You have been doing that. I know you have. At 2 o'clock in the morning when you can't sleep. In the shower when your mind goes quiet and then immediately loud. In the middle of ordinary moments when a memory surfaces without warning. And here is what I want you to understand about that process. It is not productive. It is not helping you grow. It is not leading you to anything useful. It is a loop, a spiritual loop, designed to keep you stuck in a chapter that has already been closed. Every moment you spend in that loop is a moment you are not spending in the present. And the present is where God is moving. The present is where the provision is. The present is where your next assignment is unfolding. The enemy of your progress is not the person who left. The enemy of your progress is not the people commenting about you. The enemy of your progress right now is the part of you that refuses to stop looking back. There is a story in Scripture about a woman who was fleeing a city that was being destroyed. She was told very clearly, "Don't look back," and she looked back, and she became a pillar of salt, frozen in the moment of her looking, fixed to the place of her transition, unable to move forward. I am not telling you that story to scare you. I am telling you that story because I see you looking back. And I am doing what I was sent to do. I am standing in front of you. I am turning your face forward. There is nothing behind you that is greater than what is in front of you. I say that not to minimize your pain. I say that because it is absolutely true. The love that is ahead of you. The connection that is coming. The relationship that will be built on a completely different foundation. One of mutual honoring. One of genuine presence. One where you don't have to beg to be seen. One where your needs are not a burden. One where your voice is not a problem. That love exists. It is real. It is on its way. But it cannot reach you while you are still standing in the place of what ended. You have to move, not frantically, not desperately, not out of fear, but intentionally, slowly, one step at a time, in the direction of what God has prepared. And I want to speak now to the part of you that's afraid. Because it's there. I see it. The fear that says you are too old to start over. The fear that says too much time has passed. The fear that says the best years are behind you. The fear that says you had your chance and you missed it. Every single one of those fears is a lie. And they are specifically calibrated to your insecurities, to your specific history, to your specific wounds. Because the enemy studies you. He pays attention. He knows exactly which fear will hit you the hardest. And he speaks it in the voice of reason. He dresses it up in logic. He makes it sound like just being realistic. But being realistic without faith is just limitation dressed up as wisdom. God is not limited by your age. God is not limited by your history. God is not limited by how many times something has not worked out. God is not limited by the opinions of the people watching your life from the outside. God works in all things. Not some things. Not the easy things. Not the things that look good on a timeline. All things. Including this. Especially this. Because the moments that look the most broken are often the moments where God is doing His most specific and detailed work. He is not absent from your pain. He is present in it. He is not watching from a distance. He is close, closer than your own breath. Right now, in this moment, as you are reading or hearing these words, God is aware of exactly what you are feeling. He is aware of the specific thought you had this morning. He is aware of the thing you pretended was fine when it was not fine. He is aware of the message you almost sent but didn't. He is aware of the tears you haven't allowed yourself to cry yet. And he is not waiting for you to have it all together before he moves in your life. He is moving now, in the middle of the mess, in the middle of the confusion, in the middle of the season that looks like failure from the outside. He is moving. Now I want to talk about what trust actually looks like in a season like this. Because I think it's been misunderstood. Trust does not look like pretending everything is fine. Trust does not look like forcing positivity. Trust does not look like performing peace when you don't feel peaceful. Trust looks like this. Trust looks like saying, God, I don't understand this. And I'm going to follow you anyway. Trust looks like, this doesn't make sense to me yet. And I'm going to stay open to you anyway. Trust looks like, everything looks different than what I planned. And I believe that your plan is better. Not because it feels true in the moment, but because you have made a decision. A decision that supersedes your feelings. A decision that says, I will not allow my current circumstance to be the final word on my future. That decision is the most powerful spiritual act a human being can make in a moment of pain. And I want to honor you for the moments when you have made that decision quietly. When you chose to get up. When you chose to eat. When you chose to show up somewhere even though you didn't feel like it. When you chose to breathe. When you chose to not make a permanent decision based on a temporary pain. Those were not small choices. Those were acts of profound courage. And heaven saw every single one of them. Let me speak now about the people who are talking about you. I want to go deeper here. Because there's something spiritual happening in that dynamic that you need to understand. When a person is in the process of being elevated, opposition tends to become vocal. It becomes visible. It becomes specific. That is not a coincidence. Before every significant breakthrough in a person's life, there is typically a season of increased attack on their identity. The enemy does not attack small targets. The enemy focuses his efforts on the people who are about to break through to something significant. The voices that are speaking against you right now, the comments, the judgments, the gossip, they are not evidence of your failure. They are evidence of your significance. They are evidence that something in the spiritual realm has noticed that you are moving. That you are not broken. That the story is not over. And the opposition has to get loud. Because quiet opposition is not enough anymore. You have survived too much. You have grown too much. You carry too much potential for your breakthrough to be stopped quietly. So the attack becomes visible. And I need you to read that correctly. Not as, something is wrong with me. But as, something is coming that must be stopped. And it can't be stopped. Because it can't. Not what God has written. Not what heaven has decided. Not what has been sown into your identity from the very beginning. You were not placed on this earth to be ordinary. You were not designed to live a life that could be explained and contained by the limited perspective of people who have commented from the outside. Your life is a mystery that is still unfolding. And the best chapters haven't been written yet. So when you see those comments, when you hear those conversations, when you feel the weight of other people's judgments, I want you to do this. Smile, not sarcastically, not with bitterness, but with the quiet confidence of someone who knows something that the people talking about them don't know. Smile with the knowledge that God is not finished. Smile with the knowledge that the story is not over. Smile with the knowledge that in a year from now, in 5 years from now, those same people who are commenting about how you live will be watching something in your life that they cannot explain with their current understanding. Because that is how God works. He makes a way in the wilderness. He opens rivers in dry ground. He does new things, things that could not be predicted, things that defy the logic of the current season. And he is doing exactly that. Right now, in your life, I want to take a moment here. Because I've been speaking a lot. And I want you to breathe. Just breathe. Let these words settle in your body. Not just your mind. In your chest. In your gut. In the place where you've been carrying the weight of other people's opinions. Let me take that weight for a moment. That is part of why I'm here. You have been carrying so much. For so long. With so little acknowledgement. You have been the strong one. The one who figured it out. The one who kept going when it made no sense to keep going. The one who still showed up for others even while you were falling apart privately. That strength is real, but strength that is never replenished becomes brittleness. And you have been running on empty for longer than you should have been. So right now, in this moment, I want you to receive. Just receive, not give, not perform, not explain, not hold it together. Just receive. Receive the truth that you are loved. Not conditionally, not based on your performance. Not based on whether the relationship worked out. Not based on whether your life looks like what you planned. Loved, fully, completely, exactly as you are, right now, in this moment, in this season. That love is not distant. It is not theoretical. It is not a concept. It is active. It is present. It is specific to you. And it is enough, even when everything else is not enough. Even when the human love that you needed did not show up the way you needed it to. Even when the relationship failed to be what you hoped it would be. The love of the one who made you has never wavered, has never diminished, has never been withdrawn. And that love is the foundation you are now being invited to build on. Not on a person, not on a relationship, not on someone else's ability to consistently show up for you, but on something that cannot be taken, cannot be changed, cannot be ended by circumstance. When your foundation is right, everything built on it will hold. And that is what this season is about. Getting the foundation right. Now, I want to talk about the path forward. Practically, specifically, because divine guidance without practical direction leaves people floating in inspiration without movement. The first thing I need you to do is to stop defending yourself to people who have not earned the right to your explanation. Your story is sacred. Your journey is sacred. Not everyone who asks for it deserves to receive it. Not everyone who has an opinion about your life deserves to be engaged. Your energy is a resource. And right now, your energy is needed for your own restoration. For your own clarity. For your own rebuilding. Giving it away to people who are only going to use it as material for more commentary is a waste of something precious. Second, I need you to practice the discipline of return. Every time your mind drifts to what was, to the relationship, to the ending, to what you could have done differently, gently, without self-judgment, bring yourself back to the present. Ask yourself, what is in front of me right now that needs my attention? And attend to that, not forever, not as a suppression of grief, but as a training of focus, a redirection of energy, a practice of presence. Because the present is not empty. Even though it might feel empty, the present is full of seeds. Seeds that need your attention. Seeds that will produce the harvest you are believing for. But seeds don't grow while you're staring at the closed chapter. Seeds grow when you tend to them. When you water them. When you protect them. When you give them your time and attention. Third, this is important. Give yourself permission to not be okay. Because somewhere along the way, someone taught you that being okay was the standard. And not being okay was weakness. And weakness was something to hide. And hiding was how you stayed safe. But that hiding has become a prison. There are emotions inside you that need to move. Grief that needs to be expressed. Anger that is completely valid. Disappointment that deserves to be acknowledged. Fear that needs to be named and given to God. Not performed, not dramatized, not used to seek sympathy from the wrong people, but in your own private space. With God. with safe people, with yourself. Let it move, let it be real, let it exist without judgment. Because emotion that is denied does not disappear. It just goes underground, and underground emotion finds expression in ways that are rarely helpful. In reactions that seem disproportionate. In walls that go up where openness is needed. In patterns that repeat. You don't want to repeat the pattern. I know you don't, so let the emotion move now. In this safer season, so that it does not move through you in a way that costs you what's coming. And fourth, begin to speak to yourself with the voice that heaven uses to speak about you. Not the voice of the comments. Not the voice of the people who don't understand your journey. Not the voice of your worst fear about yourself. The voice that says, you are becoming. The voice that says, you are not finished. The voice that says, what is in you is greater than what has been done to you. The voice that says, the best chapter is still ahead. Speak that over yourself. In the morning, when the doubt is loud. When the grief surfaces. When someone says something about you that tries to stick. Speak it until it becomes what you believe. Until belief becomes what you feel. Until feeling becomes what you live. That progression is not instant. It is a practice. A daily practice. A sometimes painful practice. A practice that is worth every moment of effort. I want to speak now to the relationship that ended. Specifically, because I've circled around it and I want to land here. There was a reason you were drawn to that person. A real reason. Not a mistake. Not a lack of judgment. Something in you recognized something in them. Something resonated. Something felt like home, or like the idea of home. And that recognition was not a lie. There was something real there. Something that had value. Something that taught you. Honor what was real. Don't erase the whole experience to avoid the pain. Because in erasing it you also erase the growth. You are allowed to say, that mattered to me. And also, it could not stay. Both things can be true. You are allowed to say, I gave that my best. And also, my best was not the right fit for that. Both things can be true. You are allowed to say, I miss what I thought it was. And also, I am grateful it ended when it did. Both things can be true. Grief and gratitude can occupy the same space. They are not opposites. They are both forms of love. One for what was, one for what is coming. And you can hold both. You are strong enough to hold both. But what I need you to release, what heaven needs you to put down, is the story that the ending was a verdict on your worthiness. It was not. The ending was a correction of direction. A loving, divine, sometimes painful correction. And the person who did the leaving, or who forced the situation that led to the leaving, they were not your destroyer. They were unwittingly an instrument of your liberation. Now, I want to spend some time talking about what's coming. Because I think you've heard enough about what has been. What is coming into your life, in this next season, has been specifically designed for who you are becoming. Not who you were. Not the version of you that entered that relationship. Not the version of you that stayed too long. Not the version of you that was defined by someone else's perception. The version of you that is emerging right now. In this fire. In this stripping away. In this unexpected, uncomfortable, but ultimately transformative season. That version of you is someone who knows their value. Someone who does not negotiate on their worth. Someone who walks into a room and takes up the space they were meant to take up. Someone who loves generously and wisely. Someone who attracts what they actually need, not just what feels familiar. That version of you is who the next chapter is being written for. And I want to speak to what that chapter holds. Not with false specificity, but with real spiritual discernment. There is a connection coming. A person. A relationship. That will feel different from anything you have experienced before. Not because there won't be challenges, but because the foundation will be different. The presence will be different. The way you feel about yourself within it will be different. You will not have to shrink. You will not have to beg. You will not have to manage. You will not have to perform. You will be seen, actually seen, in the way that you have always deserved to be seen. In the way that you stopped letting yourself hope for. Because hope had hurt before. That is coming. But there is also more than relationship. There is also purpose. There is something you are meant to build. Something you are meant to create. Something you are meant to contribute to this world. Something that has been sitting inside you waiting for this clearing. You have felt it, the stirring, the sense that there is something you're supposed to be doing that you haven't fully stepped into. The idea that keeps coming back. The gift that others have noticed even when you dismissed it. The thing you do effortlessly that others struggle to do at all. That is not random. That is assignment. And this season, this painful, uncomfortable, quiet season, is the season where that assignment gets serious. Because you have been freed from something that was competing with it. You have been handed back your own time, your own attention, your own energy, and heaven is asking you what you're going to do with it. Not in a demanding way. In an inviting way. Look at what you have been given back. What will you do with it? The answer to that question is the beginning of the most important chapter of your life. I want to close this message. But before I do, I want to speak to the part of you that is still not sure. The part that has heard all of this, has felt all of this, and is still sitting with a quiet voice that says, but what if I'm the exception? What if this doesn't apply to me? I hear that voice, and I want to speak directly to it. You are not the exception. You are the point. This message was not made for a crowd. It was made for the person who finds themselves in it. And you found yourself in it. That is not accidental. That is not coincidental. That is divine targeting. God does not miss. He does not fire a message in a general direction and hope it lands somewhere useful. He aims with precision, with love, with specific knowledge of the exact person who needs to hear each word. You are that person, today, in this moment, and his message to you is this. I see you. I know what they said about you. I know what it cost you. I know what you lost. I know what you're carrying. I know what you're afraid of. I know the version of yourself you've been hiding. I know the dream you stopped believing in. I know the prayer you stopped praying because it seemed unanswered. I know, and I am not done with you. I am not finished with your story. The relationship ending was not your ending. It was the ending of something that could not grow with you anymore. I did not abandon you to the comments. I am standing between you and everything that is trying to define you with your broken season. You are not broken. You are being rebuilt. And what I am building, with your pain as the raw material, with your faith as the foundation, with your willingness to keep going as the structure, is something that will make the watching world quiet their commentary. Not because you proved them wrong, but because what I am doing in you will speak for itself. Trust me, not just as a concept, but as a daily choice. Every morning, choose me. Choose what I say about you over what they say. Choose the future I have prepared over the past that has ended. Choose trust over fear. Choose forward over backward. And watch, just watch, what I do with a life that is fully surrendered to my intention for it. That is the word. That is the message. That is what heaven needed you to receive today. And before you move on from this moment, I want you to receive it fully. Not just into your mind, into your body, into your spirit, into the place where the pain has been living. Let this be the moment where the story shifts. Not because everything is fixed, but because you have decided to see it differently. To see yourself the way heaven sees you. To walk in the direction of what God has prepared. You are not what they said. You are not what ended. You are not the relationship that fell apart. You are not the silence. You are not the empty space. You are the one who was loved enough to be redirected. You are the one who is strong enough to survive the redirection. You are the one who is chosen enough to receive what comes next. If you've been resonating with these messages from heaven, if this feels like the voice you've been needing to hear, stay close to this space. Because there is more being prepared for you. More guidance, more truth, more moments where heaven speaks directly into exactly what you are walking through. You don't have to walk this season alone. You never did. I am Michael, and I am with you. Not because you earned it, but because heaven decided. And what heaven decides, no comment section can override. Go in peace. Go in the direction of what God has prepared. Go knowing that you are seen, that you are loved, that you are protected, that you are not finished. The best chapter is still ahead. Believe that, live like that, and watch heaven move on your behalf.